William Byron started 2025 with a win in the Daytona 500 and powered the number 24 team to the regular season championship prior to winning his way into the championship race this weekend by claiming a grandfather clock at Martinsville. Chase Briscoe's maiden campaign with Joe Gibbs Racing initially produced lukewarm results. The wins at Pocono, Darlington, and Talladega have brought him back to the venue of his first Cup Series win 3 years ago for his first chance at a Cup Series title. Kyle Larson exploded onto the scene this season with an impressive drive, followed by dominating efforts at Bristol and Kansas. The 5 teams scraped and clawed their way through these 3 rounds to make it into the championship round, champing at the bit for their second title in 5 seasons. Denny Hamlin got to victory lane early and often, snagging victories at Martinsville, Darlington, Michigan, and Dover in the regular season before adding trophies from Gateway and Las Vegas to lead the series in wins. With that Bill France Cup in sight once again, Hamlin enters his 20th title bid from the pole in the progressive Toyota Camry. The venue for this championship bout is none other than the desert diamond of the Estrella Mountains, Phoenix Raceway. This rough and tumble circuit stands at just 1 mile in length, and with a mostly flat and seemingly endless track surface, Phoenix presents infinite options to its competitors, if they're brave enough. Over the course of 3 stages and 312 laps, these 4 racers must battle it out amongst themselves as well as 34 other hungry drivers ready to crash their trophy presentation by doing burnouts of their own. As the shadow of Rattlesnake Hill descends upon the track today, one champion will be crowned. Briscoe, Byron, Larson, Hamlin. 4 drivers, 1 title. Who will win it all? Welcome to Phoenix Raceway and the championship race.
Thank you so much, Tanner. That's Tanner Smith from the editor of the Pit Box Press, Matthew Bro from Grid Network TV. I'm Joe Samriego. Welcome to the final Grid Live pre-race for the NASCAR Cup Series of 2025. A big thank you, calling the show, Mark, Robin, David, Matthew, Crystal, our newest member, for investing in us throughout the entire year. Link in the video description to invest in us through Patreon. Also, buy me a coffee, YouTube Super Chat. Welcome. We'll thank you on the air and share your opinions, questions with us on the air because we got a lot to talk about, including, of course, the Championship 4. That is the main story. And as Tanner had mentioned, some spoilers out there, especially the Penske Fords. Let's start talking with the Championship 4. This group is stacked. Briscoe, Byron, Larson each have 3 wins. Denny Hamlin, 6 wins. Byron was the most consistent and earned a regular season championship this year. Kyle Larson, of the 3rd time he has made it in the championship 4, all of them in odd number years with 2021, 2023, 2025. So it looks like that's going to have an opposite effect compared to Joey Logano's even year. And Chase Briscoe, despite 3 wins, probably the biggest surprise, and to some, underdog, because one of the big things we're looking at with Briscoe, he switched to Joe Gibbs Racing this year, started the season on the pole, but then we know about the potential penalty after Daytona overturned. He earned multiple pole positions, got the award for the most poles this year, then broke through with a win at Pocono, as you mentioned, Tanner. Kicked off the playoffs with a win at Darlington, the Southern 500. 2nd consecutive year in a row he's won the Southern 500. Then again at Talladega to clinch a spot in the Championship 4, but he was on track to potentially point his way in the Championship 4. This is his first time competing for a championship, and the track where he earned his first career win with Stewart-Haas Racing back when they were with the Ford Champion. He is trying to do something Kevin Harvick did with his first year with Stewart-Haas Racing, what Kyle Larson did with his first year at Hendrick Motorsports. Win a championship in the first year with a brand new team. This one, though, he is coming in after he replaced Martin Truex Jr., who we all know done a lot in his career, got a championship, ran with Furniture Row Motorsports and the Toyota associated with Gibbs. We all remember how Christopher Bell sort of mentioned it was going to be Chase in the car, and they got to introduce him a few weeks later. But now, Chase Briscoe is going for that championship. Matt, starting with you. Is Chase Briscoe an underdog? And how impressive is it that he is in the championship for his first season with Joe Gibbs Racing?
Yeah, I mean, Joe, we all have to tip our invisible caps to Chase Briscoe. I think every single person on this show right now said he was going to get at least 2 or 3 wins. Any of us said that he was going to be in the championship for. And it's hard for me to say he's an underdog because it's like he kind of is, but he's kind of not, right? Because when you think of just over the past couple of years, the best drivers in the sport, you're going to mention Denny Hamlin, you're going to mention Kyle Larkin, you're going to mention William Byron. Briscoe was never in that conversation. And I think when we saw his success with Stewart-Haas Racing back in the Xfinity Series, then he moved up. We truly did not know how much the equipment was holding Chase Briscoe back. I mean, he's kicked butt this year. Sorry about that. And it's been incredible to watch. I mean, 15 top 5 finishes, 7 pole positions, just 6 stage wins. I mean, he is truly showing that Joe Gibbs has a future, not only with Christopher Bell, not only with Ty Gibbs, I'm still confident, but with him too. And all of us I think it caught us off guard when he was the one that ended up going there. We probably thought there was other drivers that would have ended up in that seat, but that's been the smartest decision Joe Gibbs Racing has made in quite a long time, it seems like. So, absolutely, I wouldn't say he's an underdog. I don't think any of these guys are an underdog. I think every year we have one of these silly Championship 4 playoffs, ungodly stuff that happens. This final race, there usually is an underdog, except I might argue even back in, I'm trying to think, was it 2018, 2019, even 2020? Usually there's 3 guys and then that are like top tier and then one that kind of just smooths on in or sneaks in. This year, I mean, everyone has 3 or more wins. Everyone has at least double-digit top 5s, obviously double-digit top 10s. Multiple stage wins. The least amount of stage wins is 6 of all this championship 4. I don't think any of them's an underdog. I would argue that this is one of the few years in this system that of probably the top 6 best drivers in the sport during the season all made the championship 4. I would argue Ryan Blaney and Christopher Bell were the other 2 that did not make it, that were the best drivers this year. But yeah, absolutely with Chase Briscoe, I mean, tipping the invisible cap to him. It's truly been an incredible season for him. He's had a lot going on. So to do this, how impressive is that? He was loyal to Ford for a lot of his young career, loyal to Haas. They shut down immediately. It was like, you guys, good luck. Go find something. Got a call from coach immediately, said, we want to put you in that 19 car. That's got to feel good for him. And then to show Coach Gibbs, Joe Gibbs, show him what he was capable of this year. I mean, I'd say calling him an underdog is not the right term, but he's definitely not the favorite of the 4. I mean, he's obviously won here at Phoenix, like you had mentioned, Joe. I believe he has the worst average finish, though, among all these guys at Phoenix. But, hey, that doesn't matter. Connor Zilic and, like, Jesse Love, their Phoenix wasn't really their best tracks, and they were the top 2 in the Xfinity Series, right? So it all depends on how they do today. So, unfortunately, it's one of those things, though, we saw. I know we might touch on it. If you can be okay all year long, but if you show up and you lock in today, you can be the champion.
Yeah, I feel that it's really hard to call someone an underdog when they drive for Joe Gibbs Racing. Like, the guy has, some of the best equipment in the sport to choose from every week, and, a relatively accomplished crew chief on top of the pit box in James Small, who prior to Briscoe coming in here, obviously was able to make it to the championship 4 with Martin Truex Jr. all the way back in 2021, where they finished second to Kyle Larson. I think that while, the 19 team has had a pretty sterling second half of the season and, 2025 campaign overall, I just don't think it's going to be their year necessarily. I do think it's super impressive that they've even made it to this point, but I do think that for someone like Chase Briscoe, I think that this format kind of lends to his driving style and how he likes to be aggressive. I think that, obviously, some things very much went his way. Obviously, you got to look at Talladega, which is the ultimate, lottery. He ended up coming out on top in that race because, he was pushing a guy who was no longer in the postseason at that point and was able to just let him go. But with all that said, I was in attendance for Briscoe's first win just a few short years ago, back in the spring of 2022. It was an impressive drive that he survived, I believe, at least 2 overtimes and 3 total late race restarts to be able to claim that win over the likes of Tyler Reddick and Ross Chastain, who to that point also hadn't won a Cup Series race, if you can believe that. So, Briscoe's had to go through the ringer here, but that was in the spring. And as we've seen multiple times in the past, the spring race doesn't really tell us a whole lot about the fall race. I mean, where was Joey Logano last spring? On the wrecker, involved in a wreck when he was running in the 20s. And what did he do? He got the pole in the fall. He went out and won the race. So it doesn't always mean that spring success is going to bring fall performance here. And I mean, Chase Briscoe saw that firsthand back in 2020 when they came here for the championship race for the first time in Xfinity, and ultimately he just was not up to snuff that day with the likes of Austin Cindric and I believe Justin Allgaier. So I think that, the 19 team will probably express the happy to be here card. I think that kind of plays in their favor. I think that, if they can just hang around all day and, let the Hendrick guys and Hamlin and kind of duke it out and just survive like Jimmy Johnson did in 2016, it's certainly possible he goes out and wins this thing. But I don't think we saw enough out of him in qualifying or practice to, indicate that he's got grand pace to go out there and do this. But whether they end up finishing first or fourth out of the championship for today, the 19 team and Chase Briscoe have nothing to be ashamed of in this first season together. And it's definitely looking like they'll be a contender for years to come if they can replicate this performance or even improve upon it.
This year for Chase Briscoe, I feel if somebody was to ask me at the beginning of the year, would he be an underdog in the championship for, I would say yes. But as you all said, these are 4 drivers that have multiple wins, have had strong runs, have had the speed. Case of Briscoe, qualifying speed. What a great effort by that team all year long. These are 4 drivers I think are worthy of being in there. And he has the least amount of experience when it comes to being in the championship for. I think it's going to be a test for him, for James Small, his crew chief, of what could they make of that car throughout the day. They're starting 12, not the end of the world, but not exactly the best place to be. If they keep cool, calm, collective, and if Briscoe, like he said in the press conference, could get that car to his liking, I think people got to watch out. He could be the potential champion. Now, a couple of comments in the chat room, and we encourage everyone to share your comments in the chat room. Denver, welcome. After the Xfinity race, if NASCAR don't introduce a 3 or 4 race shootout to crown their champion next year onward, maybe take notes on supercars later this year in Adelaide, how they do it. By the way, I hope Denny wins so he can dim it in, well, I think we know it with the courtroom and go on the track. It will be really funny. Yeah, a lot of people wondering how awkward that would be with Steve trying to give the trophy out to Denny Hamlin and then Anna. It's been incredible how SVG has done in his first full season of the NASCAR Cup Series. Didn't exactly got that great of qualifying effort, but be interesting to see how SVG responds in the race. And encourage everyone, share your comments, opinions, and questions with us in the chat room. Briscoe, as I mentioned, is starting 12, which, as we talked about, there's going to be time to move up towards the front. We have a softer tire, so you're going to have drivers working their way towards the front throughout the race, depending on tire management and when the cautions come out. You look at Kyle Larson, hasn't won a race this year since the 12th round in Kansas earlier this year. He has finished in the top 5 here multiple times, including the last 2 consecutive events at Phoenix. William Byron won here in the spring of 2023. consistently top 5, including in the last 2 fall races where he was in the championship 4. Coming off a win at Martinsville, he's hopeful to have the momentum to get his first championship. Seems the last couple of years he'll come here. He's still fast, still strong, but it just seems, especially with the Penske cars, just did not have something good enough, particularly in those longer runs. Larson, Byron, both of them, of course, Hendrick Motorsports teammate, both of them want to give Mr. H a championship. But I got to ask you, it seems like where Larson, I would say maybe 2 years ago, especially coming off the championship, people saw him as the number 1 driver for Hendrick Motorsports, the number 1 driver in the series. Byron, I feel, is much closer to saying, hey, I could be the number 1 driver of Hendrick Motorsports. We know he got the 100 rating in NASCAR 25. Could this be the closest battle between Hendrick Motorsport teammates in the championship race?
I mean, if you look at the last 2 years, Joe, those two, William Byron and Kyle Larson, have both finished 3rd and 4th in both years, but they flip-flopped. The last time they were in the championship 4 in 2023 together, Kyle Larson got the better of William Byron, who had a much more, we'll say, competitive season than Kyle Larson in terms of getting to victory lane. But Larson still beat him out here at Phoenix in the championship race and was the second driver on the points to Ryan Blaney, who everybody lost to Ross Chastain that day. With that said, the following year when Byron was the only driver in the Final Four from Hendrick Motorsports due to that dubious bow tie brigade that they set up at Martinsville to carry Byron into the championship round, they still weren't really up to snuff. Byron was able to get up to 3rd in that race ahead of Larson in 4th, while they both lost to the Penske teammates. With those two guys not really in contention for the title this year, I do think that this does give Hendrick a little bit of, a sense of momentum going into this race, especially after the strength of yesterday, or not yesterday, but last weekend, I should say, where Byron thoroughly dominated that Martinsville race to, launch himself into this round. But with all that said, I think that something that's important to remember about last season's race is that though Hendrick was behind the Penske teammates, Joe Gibbs Racing didn't actually have a driver in the championship for last season. So they were, I'll just say, less inclined to compete than they are this year with 2 drivers in there. So with that said, I think that given JGR's immense success in the spring here especially, I think that they'll have a great shot to compete this weekend. And I think that between the 2 Hendrick teammates, Larson and Byron, I think that they'll be right around each other like they always are here in the fall race at Phoenix. But if I had to choose between the 2, I would say Larson's probably got the edge because I simply think he's just the better driver.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really funny if you look at the way these two, like Tanner had just mentioned, they're always within a couple spots of each other. Like, if you go back to 2022, see, that's the thing is I feel like we don't give William Byron enough credit for how he has been truly the best Chevrolet driver in the next-gen era. I mean, that's a debatable fact. But in 2022, the first year of the next-gen era, Byron finished 6th in the standings. Larson was 7th. In 2023, Byron was 3rd. Larson was 2nd, like Tanner had just mentioned. And then last year, Byron made the championship 4 and was 3rd, while Larson was 6th. So these 2 drivers, regardless of who we say is the better driver, they are always competing against one another. And I truly believe they're both threats for at least 35 of the 36 races all year, just the way they've been doing. So I think that will be something to watch. I think the idea of watching Hamlin and Briscoe battle it out at the same time as watching William Byron and Kyle Larson battle it out, I think we're in for a fun championship 4 race, hopefully the last one in this type of way, where it's a pretty much make or break type thing. I think if we had a different type of format and all these guys were battling, that would be pretty awesome, but obviously that's all theoretical and not real, and hypothetical too, I guess. But yeah, it's going to be a close battle, but I think if Byron does beat Larson, I think it's time to have the conversation. I know Larson's incredible and probably a better race car driver than William Byron. But when you're the best Hendrick Motorsports driver in 3 of the last 4 seasons in the standings, if it ends this way, like where Byron places out of Larson, I think it's time to say he is the best driver. And it's more or less kind of like the way the car is. Because obviously, if we never got rid of the Gen 6 car, Kyle Larson would probably have 65 wins by now. I think Hendrick figured that out in his first year there, and he absolutely kicked everyone's butt. And he would have continued to kick everyone's butt, I feel. But just the way it is now with this new car, I think it's been better for William Byron. He's been more consistent than Kyle Larson is, and it shows when it comes to the standings. Every William Byron obviously is the grid rating NASCAR champion at least once. Kyle Larson is the only guy, I believe, in the NASCAR grid ranking to ever make the final 4 or the final 5 in the grid ranking almost every single year. Joe can correct me on that, obviously, but he's always in the grid ranking. Kyle Larson's incredible too. But it seems like when they go head-to-head, it seems like Byron has the edge. But today I could not tell you. I was not confident either, like, to pick one or the other. That's one of the fantasy picks today is who do you think is going to beat who, Larson or Byron? I have no idea. I think they're going to be, like Tanner had mentioned, whether it's 3rd or 4th, 2nd and 3rd, 12th and 13th, they're going to be right near each other. And that's how they race. And I think they race each other really well, too. So that's an exciting thing to watch here in this race.
A lot of excitement. I think with these two, it's going to be a lot of fun because you got William Byron. I feel he wants to prove not only did I beat Joe Gibbs races, I also beat Kyle Larson, who is regarded as one of the best drivers out there, a racer that's always out there, one of the best of all time. But I want to go beat him. I think Byron is going to be much more motivated. Kyle Larson is still going to be motivated. He wants to go out there, get a 2-time champion, be part of that club of drivers that are multiple-time Cup Series champions. I think that will really help him make the case that, hey, I am one of the best drivers in any discipline, and I could go out there and win this championship again. Wow, I'm really curious. If those two are racing side by side, hard at it towards the end, how likely are they to give each other room? Because I don't think they'll go try to wreck each other out, but I just got a sense that, especially if we're in the closing laps, a restart, they're not going to give room. And if a mistake happens, which we've seen Kyle Larson does, the last thing they would want to do is accidentally take out each other. That would be something else if that occurs. Now, back in the chat room, if Chase Briscoe wins, could James Wall be the first foreign-born crew chief to win a Cup Series championship? That's a really good question. Not 100% sure. So
No, Cole Pern's already won.
Cole Perns, that's right, from Australia.
No, from Canada.
Canada.
James Small's from Australia.
That's where I'm getting them.
Yeah, I'm learning stuff right now.
But same sponsor, Bass Pro Shop.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Because Martin Truex Jr. was in that Bass Pro Shop car. Here we are in the Bass Pro Shop car, and looking at it again. Adam, Denny Hamlin's like Mark Martin. He's been close so many times. Well, let's talk about Denny Hamlin again. And a lot of people we've been interested in polls are showing they're sort of rooting for him. He might become the sentimental favorite because while Byron, we see what he's trying to do in emulating what Corey Haim and Jesse Love both achieved winning the first race at Daytona, then the last race. We know that means if you win the last race, especially in Championship 4, you are the champion. There may have been an uproar. Well, there may have been. There was many people bringing to uproar last night. Connor Zilisch missing out on the championship after his dominant season. The uproar for Denny Hamlin, if he doesn't get the championship, I don't think it'll be too loud compared to last night because Denny Hamlin, 6 wins. He got the best pit stall of the race, so he has everything because he got the pole. You look at the other 3 drivers, though, each of them with 3 wins apiece, 9 total to his 6. And this is somewhat similar to other past scenarios, and regardless of the format, where we saw Tim Richmond, 7 wins, no championship. Ryan Newman, 8 wins, no championship. So while this is a system that says winning matters, his 6 wins might be not good enough. I gotta ask, Matt, Denny, at this point in his career, he knows he has a fast car. He has everything laid out for him, the pole, the best pit stall, one of the best pit crews out there, and the experience over his competitors. Is he the absolute favorite out of the championship four to claim it?
I think so. And I think that's even coming from a non-biased perspective, too, in that sense. I just think it's been Denny's year. And even missing a race this year, which I think we forget a lot of the time, too, is he was obviously out because of the birth of his son. But, I mean, he would have had even more points, obviously. I know he got the waiver, but like towards if there was a regular season champion, like a full 36-race season championship. But when you have the most wins, you're in the top 5 for most top 5s, top 10s, all that stuff. I don't see why you're the favorite or not the favorite. I mean, Denny Hamlin has been like fine wine. I think we've all joked about it this year too. And I can't wait to join you guys. Let's watch our preseason predictions, what we had. I think all of us said Denny Hamlin was going this far, and we all said he's just getting better. And to be as old as he is, he's not old, but like he kind of is in racing world, to lead the series and wins is just incredible. And for him, he's got a lot going on. And I think Denny Hamlin is one of those people that can lock in mentally. I know everyone gives him crap all the time because he hasn't won this championship or whatever. I feel like he is the most hated superstar that doesn't have a championship in terms of hate, because I know everyone like Mark Martin and stuff, which you mentioned. By the way, too, if you go on social media, X or Twitter, whatever you call it, Mark Martin did tweet out or post that he wants Denny Hamlin to win this championship because he's tired of the disrespect Hamlin gets for not having one, for being as good as he's been. So that's pretty cool, a legend to legend there. But yeah, at this point in his career, Denny Hamlin's obviously got a lot of personal stuff going on. We know obviously his father, and just it's very emotional to talk about, so I won't go too in depth like everything going on with him. And this is the perfect opportunity for Denny Hamlin. I think he was already the favorite in terms of talent-wise. If you look at every single guy that's ever competed at Phoenix that races in this race or has raced besides, I believe, Kevin Harvick, nobody has a better average finish and driver rating, I believe, at this track than Denny Hamlin. So, like that Michael Irvin meme, remember? It's like, Denny Hamlin, don't let someone walk into your house and take your food. This is your opportunity right now to go and get it done. And I think Denny Hamlin can indeed go get it done. And it's just, he's got his experience. I know he's made it a couple times. He hasn't been in a few years, but it's still Denny Hamlin. There's a reason this guy has 60 wins. There's a reason why they've put forth this confidence like FedEx for the last 20 years up until this year. Reason why Joe Gibbs put him in the car, whether he was racing late models up until now the Busch Series at the time, then Nationwide, stuff like that. Denny Hamlin has built a resume for a good reason. He is one of the best in history of this sport, regardless of if he wins today or not, or wins a title or not. He is still an all-time great. He's going to go into the Hall of Fame, but his time is running out in his career. I know he's in his, you could say, the fine wine, like I had mentioned, where he's getting better, but a storybook ending could be very close to happening if he could get it done. And I think this is his best opportunity, most important opportunity in his life. And this is arguably the most important race of his entire life. So he's got to go do it. But I think all of us are confident that he can do it. He knows he has a fast car. He knows he's Denny Hamlin. Pretty much he's got the experience. He's got the talent. He's been one of the best drivers all year round. So to end my long rant, Denny Hamlin, don't let anyone go and take your food. Go get it.
Yeah, I think that, as Joe mentioned in the lead up to this question, obviously Hamlin is following in some pretty exceptional footsteps. Obviously, Tim Richmond's 1986 season, where he put up 7 wins. The year before that, Bill Elliott put up 11 wins, didn't win the title. Ryan Newman with 8 in 2003. A number of other fantastic seasons come to mind, like Kevin Harvick's 2020 season, even in this format, where just couldn't end up finishing it off. And I'm sure Denny has, been pretty observant of that over the past few years and past few weeks, especially knowing that he's been locked into this race since Vegas. So I think that with all that in mind, with all of the experience and the 20 years of trying and frustration that he has endured to get to this point yet again, I think that maybe it doesn't make him the favorite necessarily, because I think it's really hard to pick a favorite until we see the cars actually put laps on the track together in a pack of 40 cars or 38 today. But I think if you were to point to one guy that's probably the most motivated, it's the guy in the 11 car with the Green Goblin mask. Denny Hamlin has been on a warpath this year, whether it be getting a new crew chief, having to, actually go sponsor hunting probably for the first time in 15 to 20 years. The guy has really had to put the work in this year, and that's not even considering the lawsuit of it all, where he is suing NASCAR in federal court for antitrust violations, which is in essence saying that NASCAR is a monopoly on stock car racing. With all that in mind, he really should be the most distracted, but it seems that when Denny Hamlin has the most going on, he seems to perform better somehow. And I think that with all of this going on in the background and in the foreground, I think that Denny Hamlin probably does have the best chance of these four drivers to go out and place himself ahead of them. So, obviously we're all excited to go see what that's going to look like today for 312 laps around Phoenix. But I think that with this being heavily considered like a tire conservation race, I'm definitely not looking at the two Hendrick teammates, and I'm definitely not looking at Chase Briscoe. I'm looking at the 20-year veteran who got his very first career pole here all the way back in 2005 when he was simply auditioning to be in the 11 car full time for 2020 or for 2006. So I think with all of that in mind, Denny Hamlin, if he isn't the favorite, he probably should be. But as we've seen many times before in this format, it doesn't matter how good you were for 311 laps. It matters where you finished the last lap. And time again, Denny Hamlin has come to Phoenix Raceway and not been the one ahead on the last lap. Will that be the case this year? Who knows? But the last time he was here for the Championship 4 in 2021, he definitely had a really good shot to win that race had David Starr's car not junked out there with about 25 laps to go. So I definitely think that with that in mind, Denny Hamlin's going to try to go out there and put on a clinic this afternoon.
Hamlin, the experience, everything he has there, I think he has to be easily considered the favorite of the championship. Granted, a lot can happen, but if we have a race where, especially I think, long green flag runs, taking care of your tires, he knows how to get it done. It doesn't seem like we've always dreaded with this format, we're going to get the crazy overtimes, we're going to get crazy scenarios where there's some sort of controversy. Most part, that has not been the case. So I got a feeling if that trend continues, then it will be in a really good spot by the end of the race. In the chat room, Adam, Denny Hamlin is on a mission to win the championship. He wants to win it. Dakota, thank you for joining us on Facebook. I've got Byron on our 2021 champion, Kyle Larson. And Denver, look for the tribute to Gary Rogers. Chase Briscoe is repping the Gary Rogers Motorsport Tribute logo on his car out of respect for James Maul. Was Gary Rogers' first crew chief before moving to the USA. Of course, for fans not familiar with the Supercar Series, Gary Rogers passed away, one of the big team owners who also had some big names, including Scott McLaughlin back in the day with Volvo. Been thinking about everyone there in Australia. And, of course, Jesse Love, he's going to be there in Adelaide, and he's going to take that Xfinity Series Championship trophy with him. I know Ben and Brad are going to get a lot more into the Track Series, Xfinity, and ARCA West. Now, Denny Hamlin, we talked a lot about how good he is, but we got to remember one potential weakness. he tends to sometimes get speeding penalties in pit road. Knock on wood, he hasn't in a while. He has the pit stall. You could still technically speed out of that pit stall and get a penalty, but the chances of doing that is a little bit on the low side. So that has to be a plus for him. In this race, especially this championship format, it seems the last pit stop has been so critical. Whether it was Kyle Larson going from fourth to first in 2021, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney's pit crew coming in clutch. Now Denny Hamlin has that short run. But when it comes to pit crews, quite often, William Byron seems to have one of the fastest. You look at the pit crews of Hendrick Motorsports in general with Kyle Larson. They seem to be up there in speed. Not a drastic difference compared to Joe Gibbs Racing. Joe Gibbs Racing can deliver, but I just feel like that little bit of an upper edge goes to Hendrick Motorsports. So, Tanner, can Hamlin and Briscoe pit crews outperform the Hendrick Motorsports pit crew today?
Well, Joe, as we know, Denny can deliver, but the true question is, I guess, will his pit crew? And I think if you look at their performance throughout the 2025 season, they've definitely performed very, very well. In fact, they got him the win at Darlington earlier this year with that sick behind-the-back jack swing coming around the car. So, you know, obviously Hamlin, I have to feel, is probably pretty confident in his ability to go out and get the win today based on his pit crew's performance. Not only that, you have to look at Briscoe, who I believe has had some pretty strong pit stop showings as well this season. None that immediately come to mind in terms of the team just like outright beating everybody on pit road to get an advantage, but at the same time, you know, I haven't really seen them make a whole lot of mistakes, which, you know, obviously with this next gen car is a lot easier to make, especially with that single lug that can be a bit tricky at times. So with that in mind, you have to look at William Byron and his team's performance last week on pit road. Obviously didn't put a foot wrong all day. Were able to stay up at the front, maintain that dominance, and finish it out. But the last pit stop of the day, you know, they managed to put themselves in great position on track and then keep it through the pit stops. And I think that that'll propel them, you know, forward today are those fantastic pit stops that the 24 team can produce. And as we all know, Cliff Daniels is probably the best crew chief in the NASCAR Cup Series on top of the fives pit box. I think that Kyle Larson really shouldn't have anything to worry about, mainly because they've been here and done this before. Granted, not from this pit stall. That'll be in Denny Hamlin's possession today. But Kyle Larson, like I said, very familiar with this racetrack. Obviously has a lot of good memories here from that 2021 title-winning race. But, you know, I don't think that pit road will necessarily be a question mark really for any of these four today. I think that hopefully it's going to come down to who is the better driver on the track, but well, I guess we'll just have to see. But as far as the pit crews are concerned, I think that everybody's pretty evenly matched. Most of these teams tend to be pretty clean and quick on pit road, so I'm not really foreseeing any sort of like pit road flub up that's going to completely throw this championship, you know, all over the place. So I think that pit crews probably won't be the determining factor today, but I also wouldn't be too sure about that.
I think for the case of this, I hope they're not the determining factor. Yeah. I think earlier this year, especially Denny Hamlin, I believe there was a large point of this season where Denny Hamlin had a top 3 pit crew ranked in like analytical stuff. But then last month, I remember, I can't think of what race it was, but it was in the round of 12. They put out a list of the best ranked pit crews of the guys left. 3 of the top 4 were Hendrick Motorsports pit crews, with Kyle Larson being the second best crew left in the playoffs and Byron being 4th. Hamlin was 5th, and Chase Briscoe was 11th best pit crew. So I think for Chase Briscoe's crew, I'm not sure what it is because, like Tanner had mentioned too, it doesn't seem like they make a lot of mistakes, but I don't know what in the analytical part is penalizing them for that. So I think it's interesting going into this that it looks like Hendrick on paper has the advantage, but also Denny Hamlin, that crew, I think it was motorsport.com, they had a video on social media. They spent a lot of time cleaning out the rubber in that number one pit stall last night after the Xfinity Series Championship race that almost cost Heim, and I believe it didn't really affect. I think Zilich had it too last night, if I'm not mistaken. But I think so. So yeah, Heim was the rubber and stuff like that. So if Hamlin can have that somewhat advantage, and he just can't speed, like Joe had mentioned earlier, just Hamlin's got to just relax a little bit. And then I think Larson sometimes will speed too. But yeah, for them, it's can they outperform them? I think they can. Will they? I can't answer that personally. But it's all about this, guys, right? It's whoever shines the brightest in these stupid moments. That's really all it is with the system. So it's whoever they got to come to the track. They're at the track right now, obviously. They just got to be locked in. And I think they can be. I think Hamlin's crew is locked in a lot this year when they've needed to. Briscoe's has when they've needed to. Kyle Larson's has, and William Byron's did just a few weeks ago and locked in. So I think pit crews have been a deciding factor of who is in this championship for, but at the same time, I don't think they will be too much of one unless some silly thing happens with like 20 laps to go where somebody's leading and then a random caution comes out, like the Connor Mozak caution that almost cost Corey Heim the championship. Yes, the Xfinity race, nothing had happened in that one to have a late caution, even though I think a lot of people were hoping for a late caution for the sake of Connor Zilich. But Jesse Love, obviously incredible young man, truly a deserving. He will be a champion, I believe, someday in the top level of NASCAR as well. I think that kid's got a lot of talent in the world, but I think Connor Zilich also has all that talent. So what we witnessed yesterday was two best friends who are the future of the sport racing. And the one who had the better year didn't win the championship, but it doesn't matter, I guess. I think now Zilich is going to go up the Cup. It's a chance to go back-to-back Rookie of the Years. His teammate Shane Van Gisbergen will be Rookie of the Year in about, I guess, 6 hours from now, whenever the race ends. They'll officially announce that because Riley Herbst did absolutely nothing this year to even contend for that spot. So, yeah, I think it's just to go back quickly, just for the pit crews, can they do it? Yes. Will they? No idea. That's just something we got to wait and see. That's a hard job. I don't want to do that. I could not imagine being under that stress with these guys, having to run around the car, do the lug nut sit. Nope. I hurt, my back hurts right now, and I'm just sitting down. So could you imagine these guys doing this in a high stakes situation? Absolutely not. So shout out to them. I wish every crew the best possible pit stop so we could see the on track action being the factor in this race.
Just want to chime in a little bit here before I hand it back off to Joe. The last 10 Phoenix races, and I do this for every NASCAR newsletter that you can find on Pitbox Press, and they always begin with the same intros that I give on this show. So definitely give those a gander if you have the chance. But one of the things that I measure prior to each race is the last 10 events and seeing what the averages are of those races. And the average lap of final caution waving flies around lap 277 or around 36 laps to go. So remember around the time that David Starr's caution came out in 2021 to give Kyle Larson a chance? That's about when the cautions normally fly here at this fall race. But we've only had one instance of overtime, and it was back in 2016 in that mess of a finish between Matt Kenseth, Alex Bowman, Kyle Busch, and Joey Logano. So it would be a statistical outlier if there was overtime today at this racetrack. But it would be beautifully poetic if this was the final race for the championship here at Phoenix, especially in this one race system, and we finally got that stupid overtime that NASCAR has been desperately pining for all these years.
Don't speak that into existence, Tanner. Don't do that.
I'm just saying, look, listen, I went to school for English. I got to call out poetry where I possibly see it.
I mean, I feel that'll definitely add fuel to the fire of this format needs to change, which I know in the wrap-up show we'll get more into the format and the changes, how it's going to be remembered, but
You'll be hearing a lot about it tomorrow evening on Grid Encore.
Grid Encore is definitely going to be something else. Subscribe, hit that bell icon so you don't miss Ben and Brandon's thoughts on that. Let's go to the chat room. Starting with Gust of Lightning. I think there's many cautions. Briscoe will win. If the race is smooth, Hamlin or Brown will win. As a 5 fan, I just don't see his winning speed, and he's too nice to Hamlin. I think Cliff only needs to remind him about Pocono, Kansas
last year.
Every time they're 1 and 2 in a race.
Yep. Tyler, it's been a great season. Thanks, guys, for everything. Let's have a great finish to the season. Thanks again. And of course, don't forget, we'll have Formula One.
Thank you, Tyler.
A lot more racing right here. So subscribe, hit that bell icon. Lord Vader of Earth. Plot twist. Bubba takes out Hamlin for the win. Throw the fingers in the air, and Larson's crowned the champion. Oh, my goodness. That would be insane.
Thing that we would ever see.
That would be crazy work.
We got Scott on Facebook. Oh, I just been discussing with the format until my driver won last night. I'm all for it now. Just kidding. Scott, you got to watch Grid Encore tomorrow and share that comment with Ben and Brandon. Love to see their response. Yes, Matt.
Me too.
But Scott has known Jesse Love since Jesse Love couldn't even sit in the front seat of an actual car. So that's why it's a funny point. He won't say that out loud, but I mean, it's really funny. Him and I talk a lot about the format and just this tomfoolery BS. But yeah, that's
Denver. Pick a winner scenario. Denny to win, and Steve felt reluctant to hand the trophy and congratulate Denny. And MJ looking on, smoking a cigar behind him and gaslighting them. Only that MJ can. Oh man. There's a lot that could happen. Very interesting comment. I think Cliff's holding back Larson, actually.
No way.
I've heard that with Alan Gustafson and Chase Elliott, and we all know the Chase Elliott faithful have been very vocal. This year, it seems like after Kansas, Kyle Larson was not the same. Part of it, too, Indianapolis 500 weekend just did not go well for him at all. The double weekend did not go well for him at all. If Kyle Larson leaves Phoenix empty-handed, no championship, where does 2025 rank in Kyle Larson's season? Is it one of the worst seasons with Hendrick Motorsports? It's definitely not his worst. So
maybe third out of 5.
It's not 2022 where he got bounced as the defending champion in the round of 12, but I mean, you got to okay, so 2021 is obviously the peak. I'd say 24 was probably second because he won so many races. Then probably 23, and then like I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's a little bit harder, but yeah, like 2025 probably got to be like fourth on that list. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like he's been bad. It's just I feel like there's so many other factors, like his comment, does Larson not load off with a fast car? I feel like Larson always has a fast car. I just think, like, I mean, he had mentioned there's so many other factors that can go into it, and I think a lot of it Larson does drive really hard, and sometimes it just doesn't work in this car. And obviously, like I had mentioned earlier, if this car never was existing, I think Larson would have 50-something wins by now. But, yeah, I think there's so many other factors, too, going on that I think Larson lost a little bit of his edge. Obviously, that whole Indy week. And it shows how good Kyle Larson is because we talked like he hasn't been good. He made the championship 4 in a down year, and he won multiple races. So, I mean, he's still incredible. It's just I don't know if it is like if he only finishes third or fourth or even second today and he doesn't come home with the championship. It's probably his middle third or fourth best year with Hendrick because even he's had good years, but sometimes a round of playoffs don't go your way. You have 2 bad rounds, and all of a sudden, whoop-de-doo. Like even Tyler Reddick, I think they said statistically has like the 3rd or 4th most points scored in the playoffs, but he got bounced in the round of 12 because he had 2 bad races. So It just happens when you're bad, I feel like, is where the standings determine where you end.
I think that one thing that's important to consider is something I pointed out at the beginning of the season in our preseason predictions, which was the Chevrolet body is the same again for the fourth straight season, and this is both the second season of the Ford Mustang Dark Horse and the Toyota Camry XSE, which are optimizations of the initial next-gen platform. So I think that the problem is for Hendrick that there's only so much you can do with the same car over and over again, especially with a spec car. And they're really just running out of ideas. I don't think it has anything to do with Cliff Daniels being a good or bad crew chief. I think it has all to do with this car and Chevrolet refusing to change the body. In fact, I said at the beginning of this season that Hendrick would win 8 races this year, and guess how many they have coming into week 36? 8. I think that Chevrolet's body is certainly holding that entire, cohesive unit at Chevrolet back, and I think it would be a step in the right direction if they could move into 2026 with a new model, but based on what I've heard from some sources, that doesn't appear to be the case, and we'll probably be getting another 5th year of the Chevrolet Camaro in the NASCAR Cup Series, so ought to be good.
Yeah, it's interesting because, and this shows sort of that gap between the top level teams and the mid pack teams and the bottom level teams. If this was a sort of a down year, I would almost say more off year, still to be able to say we made a championship 4. How many drivers would say I made a championship 4 on an off year? Especially a team like RFK Racing, where they seem to have lost a little bit from last year. You look at the pressure, Cliff, all the top, Adam Stevens when he was with Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott's crew chief, all these top, Chris Gabehart. I mean, Tony Stewart's crew chief, you remember, they won the championship and it was already known he's being let go. It's something where these crew chiefs on the top level, there's so much pressure compared to, hey, you got SVG, all these wins, granted road courses, cars getting better. People are like, oh, great work. Chase Elliott doesn't make it into the championship 4. Oh, well, does the crew chief need to be replaced? Just the way it goes. I mean, I think it's a valid point. It feels like there might be a little bit of holdback, but I think it's a little bit of everything with something since the Indy 500. Kyle Larson has said sometimes feel like he's lost his way. But yeah, definitely not one of the best, but a great question from Gus Lightning. I encourage everyone in the chat room to share their comments and opinions with us. And especially now, we're getting towards the end of the show. It's time for audio. Trying to get... There's the lightning for the lightning round. So, quick answers, and we encourage everyone in the chat room to share your opinions as well, too. Starting off with Tanner. Kyle Busch hasn't won since 2023. Starting 11th today, will 2025 be his second consecutive winless season?
Yes, but I do think he gets a top 10 today to preserve that double-digit top 10 streak he's had since the beginning of his career.
Exactly what Tanner said. Same thing. I think he can get a top 10 to continue that incredible streak, but yeah, he ain't winning today.
Yeah, I don't think he's winning today either. Looks like it's unanimous in the chat. Encourage everyone share your predictions as well. 2311 cars are started outside the top 20. Will any finish in the top 10? And is Reddick a certain to be winless this year?
Yeah, Reddick's not winning. That is crazy to think about, even to say those words. And I don't know if any of them finish in the top 10, but I do think Bubba and Reddick could both finish in the top 15. I don't know where Riley Herbst is going to finish, but it's probably going to be like 27th or 28th at most. But yeah.
Yeah, Reddick's definitely not winning, but I can see Bubba getting a top 10 here. He's had solid pace here in the past, and As far as Reddick's concerned, probably not even a top 10. It's going to be a tire management race, and Riley Herbst, he's going to be on a side quest somewhere.
Scott saying Riley Herbst, checker flag. That would be crazy.
Okay.
Looking at RFK, they're looking at a winless season. Can they rebound in 2026, Tanner?
I think so, but I guess I don't know what a rebound looks like. I think that would look like something they haven't done since Brad got in the ownership role there, and that would be multiple cars in the playoffs on wins. And I mean, that would have to be them exceeding anything they've ever done before. So I'll say that they'll at least get one in the playoffs, and that's a firm enough of a rebound.
Yeah, it's hard to say rebound. When you look at Chris Buescher, Ryan Preece, and Brad Keselowski have truly been the best of the rest, besides Ty Gibbs is ahead of Keselowski in the standings, but they had an incredible year. They just didn't find victory lane. Ryan Preece, incredible. Chris Buescher, it was a down year, and he was still incredible. Brad Keselowski, obviously, he can still compete. But yeah, I think they will bounce back next year. It's just crazy to even say that. None of those three guys won this year. That's really shocking to me because I think Preece has speed. Buescher's most of the time always has speed, and Brad Keselowski is very hit or miss, but they combined for, I think, 13 top 5 finishers? Yeah, so that's not a bad year, but yeah, that's all I got.
They'll love to get some wins. I mean, Priest has been good. There's been some good races, and Brad Keselowski, some brilliance of hope. I think 2026 has to feel pretty positive, optimistic. Same for Shane Van Gisbergen. Starting 31st, though, we've seen in the top 10s occasionally in the last few oval races. Matt, can he get in the top 10 like those past few race weekends?
Not to finish, but I bet you he runs in the top 10 for a couple laps. I think next year will be really exciting to see what Shane can do, especially now he's kind of figuring it out. I'd be a little more worried if I was the Cup field. I don't think he'll be a champion contender, but I think if he starts competing, it'll be really fun to watch, especially for our viewers, even in the chat room like Denver and stuff. I think that's exciting. But yeah, he is not – I would not bet that he would finish in the top 10 today unless something silly happens.
My guess is that SVG finishes 14th. I think that he'll have a solid run where he's going to gain a lot of positions, but top 10's not happening today. No offense, buddy.
It's going to be really hard for him to get a top 10. He might get in there in a run, particularly if everyone pits, green flag pit cycle, and he somehow managed to keep going, but we'll see. Noah Gragson, Zane Smith from front row, they are starting ahead of all the 2311 cars. Which teams will have the most car finishing ahead, 2311 or front row?
I'm going to say 2311, though I do think Gragson probably mixes it up because I believe he had a solid run here in the spring, either this year or last year. But even still, Bubba Wallace has been the best driver of those 6 this year, so I have to think that he's going to have a much better run today than any of the other 5.
Yeah, I think 2311 too, just because I feel like Gregson's been the worst of all. I mean, besides Riley Herbst. I think Gregson and Riley Herbst have been in their own I don't think Todd Gillen Zane Smith's been good too. I don't think Todd Gillen will finish ahead of Tyler Reddick or Bubba Wallace, so that's why I'm more leaning towards 2311 in that sense.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 2311. I just think they will find something to get up towards the front, and of course, it'll be fun to see how they manage to do that and work their way towards front because tires will be something else. In the chat room, Gus is going with Bubba. He has the speed. 2311, I'm guessing that's for, and 17th for Shane Van Gisbergen. Talking a lot about the non-playoff drivers during the lightning round. Let's talk about a non-playoff team, but they know how to win here because they've done it the last 2-3 years, correct if I'm wrong, with Logano, Blaney, Logano? No, Logano did not win. That was when Chastain won, but he claimed the championship.
Blaney, but yes.
But
yeah,
then Blaney and then
finished
Logano.
second. Yeah.
So second to Logano in that race, though, didn't he? So
yep.
He finished second to Logano both times that Logano's won in the next gen.
That's cool.
So the Penske drivers, let's call them the Penske 4 because you throw in there as well Josh Berry in that 21 car. All four of them are starting in the top 10. So great qualifying effort. It's a matter of finishing the end, especially for that 21 team. All four of them will love to get a win. Really, nothing. This is the last race of the year. Why not? Austin Cindric, it just seems like the playoffs, bad luck, no results. Josh Berry, my goodness, that streak of finishing last almost ended it at New Hampshire with a win, but he was already out of the playoffs. And since we've had this one race championship decider round, it will be the first time the winner, when Logano won the championship in 2022, Chastain won the race. That was the first and only time a non-playoff driver has won this race. Matt, starting with you, can any of the Penske drivers become the second driver to win the championship race, not be crowned a champion because they're out of it? And if so, who?
I think, honestly, Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano both have legitimate shots to win this race. I'm not going to say they will, but, I mean, if you look at it, Logano, some reason, is just very good here, and Ryan Blaney is the best here in the next-gen era among average finish. He doesn't win, but he has 6 top 5s in 7 races here. I keep not trying to go with the meme, but it seems like those two numbers do fall a line next to each other, right? But yeah, I say Ryan Blaney is a true legitimate threat to win this race, and I think that's why everyone was scared, not Penske guys, but everyone else was scared that if Ryan Blaney was to pull that off at Martinsville, he would be the favorite just because he locks in those final 4 or 5 races of the year. I mean, he's locked in usually all year. He just has terrible luck, but he scored so many points, even though he's DNF'd like 7 times, which none of them were really his fault at all. So Ryan Blaney's an incredible talent, one of the best drivers in the sport. I think all of the other 4 guys are very lucky that he did not win at Martinsville. I guess you would say 3 because then Byron would have been out. But very lucky that he didn't win because he would be the championship favorite here today. But yeah, I'd say Ryan Blaney can win. I'm not confident, really. Austin Cindric, I know he qualified well. Josh Berry, this isn't really his best track. He did finish 4th here, though, in the next-gen era. And then Logano, it's hit or I don't know what he can do. He could win. Obviously, he's shown it many times he can win. But now that it's an odd year and he's not in the championship for, I don't think they have that same pace. Like, I think Logano rises to the moment when it's, like, super needed. Today, it's not super needed, so that's why I would say I think he could win, and I think Ryan Blaney could win. However, just to mention, I truly think Ross Chastain is a legitimate threat to win this race. I think he's so good here for some reason, especially in the next-gen era, and he wants to play spoiler. He should have won probably more races this year. They just were on and off with the pace. So I think if it's a non-Penske driver, just to add my own part to the question, if it's not a Ryan Blaney or Joey Logano, I think Ross Chastain is a legitimate threat.
I would definitely say that the Penske cars will have plenty of power to possibly determine who's the champion today, or at least who wins the race. Ryan Blaney is the one that I'm looking at the most, mainly because of his record here that Matthew so eloquently pointed out. That said, I will say that the second guy is not Joey Logano for me, but it's Josh Berry, the guy that probably had the best car at the end of the New Hampshire race until he slid into turn 3 and completely biffed the corner. I think that his strong run here in the spring is also indicative of a driver with strong performances at this track. And I think, Wood Brothers is probably trying to make a statement after their unceremonious exit from the first round. And, going out and competing for the win today with the championship 4, I think that would certainly make some sort of a statement. With all that said, though, I think that Blaney is probably the biggest factor today outside of the championship chase. And another guy that probably nobody's talking about is starting in 6th, Carson Hocevar. I think that he might have a chance to do something pretty impressive today and compete with those guys, much like his Spire Motorsports teammate Rajah Caruth did in the Truck Series finale on Friday. Run a good, clean race up front and finish well. I think that's certainly in the cards for Carson Hocevar today. And I think if and I'm saying this in a very, very, very conditional way. If the cards fall the right way, we could see Hocevar maybe, get his first win today. I don't know. Like, we've seen some pretty strange things happen here at Phoenix in this race, and I think that it would be a perfect send-off to this goofy format and the season as a whole that has been so impossible to predict if the Hurricane came through and won his first race while somebody else won the title.
Carson Hocevar win. That would be a way to end the season. We got to remember, Spire had a great qualifying effort in Phoenix earlier this year. All three cars. But then all three cars failed to finish the race. I believe Hocevar was involved in a crash and also took out Michael McDowell quite early on. So we didn't get to see the full potential, but this track, Chase Briscoe got his first win with Stewart Haas Racing. A lot of potential for surprises in this race. Let's check out the chat room before pick a winner. Nicholas, I have Chase Briscoe and Kyle Larson for the championship. Gus Lightning, Barry is a sneaky guy today. If he could have a good car, he could be up there towards the top 10. Blue shirt guy and me think alike. That's you, Tanner, I assume.
I was supposed so, yeah.
Yeah.
I can see Hocevar leading, and he may get orders to let an HMN car win, similar to Larson or Homestead with Jimmy Johnson. I think if he's leading, as long as he's not holding up the HMS cars, I don't think there'll be an order, and especially I highly doubt there's any link between him and that 48 team nowadays. Yes, Matt.
I know with all that. I was going to say, I wonder if it's going to be similar to, say, Hocevar's running well, kind of like last year with Xfinity, where Allgaier just let Riley Herbst kind of just go by, like no reason to fight him if he's not battling for the championship. So I wonder, it would be awesome to see Carson Hocevar win. I think we're all still wondering if Gibbs, Hocevar, like someone like Ryan Preece, which guy gets their win first. And Hocevar could easily show it today. They were fast. I think McDowell was fast. So I think Gus Lightning makes a good point with that, and the same with obviously Blue Shirt guy over here too. I think he did a great job making his points with Hocevar. So I agree completely. So I'm excited, guys. I know our last NASCAR pre-race of the year. I'm getting a little hyped up. It might be my Soda Stream Code Red, but
it's going to be a lot of fun this race, especially with the soft tire. I think a lot of people are going to be very excited to see how it will all turn out when it comes to tire management and the race. And this is the part we encourage everyone watching, participate for Pick a Winner. The scoreboard is still down to 4 people left in the Pick a Winner standings. Here's the right standings. Matthew leads, Cody, Matt White, and Tanner. Tanner, you're still mathematically eligible, but after this weekend, you're going to have to rely on Formula One.
I've got to win GP, basically.
And Supercar Series, as those are the 3 remaining series left. So, for everyone watching, comment with who do you think is going to win the race at Phoenix and the championship. So 2 picks. Some people may do 1 pick with a championship for because, of course, if they win the race, they claim the championship. Tanner, starting with you, who's going to win the race and who's going to take the championship?
So in 3 of the 5 Phoenix championship races, the highest qualifying driver has won. And technically the streak should be 4 because Chase Elliott would have been the highest qualifying driver in 2020, but unfortunately had a penalty and had to go to the back of the field for that event. So with that in mind, I think I'm riding the Progressive sponsored bandwagon because I don't want to get run over by it. He's going to beat your favorite driver in the race. He's going to beat him all season long for the championship, get that 7th win, which is very apt for him and Michael Jordan, both heavy gamblers. And Denny Hamlin is going to finally put an end to 20 years of trying and 20 years of frustration to claim that ever-elusive first Cup Series title. I think it's going to happen today at the end of the 312th lap at Phoenix Raceway.
Yeah, a lot of stuff history's writing on one specific driver, and just obviously stuff going on in personal life, whether it's family, whether it's lawsuits, whether it's being known as the greatest driver without a championship. But for the final time in 2025, I'm bringing it out one more time. For those who don't know, I don't have a Green Goblin mask, but hear me out here. James Allen Dennis Hamlin, it is your time, Denny. It is your time here today. You got a lot on it. You're one of the best drivers in the history of this sport. That is ungodly hot. You are one of the best drivers in the sport. I need a haircut too. Go get it done today. I think even from a non-biased perspective, even biased, I think just the history of the sport, nothing would be better. I think we've all said, I've said it since February, that he's been my championship pick. I really think he can do it. I've been confident in him for the last 38, 39 weeks since we had our preseason show and stuff like that. I think it's time to go prove everyone why you are one of the best to ever do it. Hopefully today is the last day Denny Hamlin is the best driver without a championship, and he will finally become one of the best drivers with the championship.
Denny Hamlin is definitely on my short list. I think it is going to be a Toyota. I think it is going to be a Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota, without a doubt, getting the race win. I'm going to throw out there a little bit of a twist. I think it's going to be the driver where some of us might say, where did he come from? I think Chase Briscoe is going to get it done and really demonstrate to everyone what he can do. James is going to get that criticism off his back for a little while. He's going to come back next year when things don't go well and people are going to question his crew chiefing style. But I think we're going to see Chase Briscoe pull off what some will say the upset, but just the top of his amazing journey. I think Chase Briscoe, that is my pick for pick a winner. In the chat room, we got Adam. He is going with Denny Hamlin to claim the championship. Scrolling down to see who else we have when it comes to picks. Gus, I think Hamlin wins the race. Sadly, it's honestly not exactly a Denny Hamlin fan, but it seems like Adam is really wanting to see Denny Hamlin win. And of course, we know there's a couple people that have posted stuff such as I have Briscoe or Kyle Larson. Encourage everyone. Share your pick a winner picks on social media. Go to Grid Network TV on X, Blue Sky, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Find the pick a winner post, hashtag pick a winner. Comment with who you think is going to win the race. Before the green flag drops, that is when it gets locked in, everyone's picks. And after the race, about 90 minutes, we'll be on the air again. So subscribe, hit that bell icon as we recap this race. Recap the season and what lays ahead for the NASCAR Cup Series. Big thank you to everyone through the YouTube Super Chat, Buy Me a Coffee, and our Patreon investors, Colin, Deshelle, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew, plus Crystal, who just joined at the beginning of October. Invest in the Grid Network through Patreon, link in the video description. I will thank you on the air and add your name to the leaderboard, and a big thank you to everyone watching. Hit the bell icon, give us a thumbs up, so that way more and more folks can watch what we do here at the Grid Network, because we got to show later today. Monday Grid Encore for the Xfinity Truck Series, Wednesday Grid tonight, and then next weekend it won't be a pre-race show, but we will do the wrap-up. The wrap-ups will continue on to the end of the year, and before you know it, December, Formula E is going to start off the 2026 year and a new pick a winner leaderboard. So it's starting up already.
Oh, God.
For Tanner, for Matt, I'm Joe. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time and enjoy the race.